Certainly wanted to save this video till the end of the year because I wanted to make a well-informed decision. Very well-informed. I named a few lenses Lens of the Year this year. The Fuji 16mm, the Voigtlander 58, the Nikkor 200-500, and this lens, the 70-200. Received a lot of flack for quite a long time. Like, why can't you recommend the VR1 and the VR2 from Nikon? Because can't. It's not good enough. They're just they're not good enough. And I've been saying for over a year, I said Nikon's got to come out with a new lens because even they know that their lens, it's a stinky mess compared to like the Tamron 70-200 2.8, which is a lot less expensive. And it's very, very important for Nikon's image to have a lens that they squeeze every bit of juice out of their brains on, because the 70-200 2.8, not my opinion, is the single most important professional workhorse lens for wedding photography, sports action, not necessarily for wildlife, not that it's not perfectly good for wildlife. I also started the first Flickr group for this lens too, by the way. Can't take my hands off of it. I had a person call me today. I've had 3 people so far call me that have bought this lens. A guy who called me today is not like me. He doesn't like cuss casually. A lot of people think that if you cuss that you don't have a good vocabulary or good lexicon underneath your belt. And I found that to be such absolute BS. It's not even funny. Anyway, this is a guy that does not cuss, but he bought it, and we were talking about it for a little bit, and I said, well, what do you think about it ultimately now that you got it? He seems to be a person of some monetary means, so the purchase of it wasn't too, was no serious issue for him to buy it, and that's when he started to cuss a little bit, in a good way. It's like, holy, I forget his exact words, but basically in short, his words were holy shit, just wow, you're right. It is. This is a lens I've been waiting many, many years for. Cannot take my hands off of it. What people don't realize about this lens, first I'll talk about that in a second. People have talked about the switching of the zoom ring from the rear to the front, and it's not an issue at all, and in fact it's very nice, and I'll tell you very quickly why in a second. The extra 7%, well, how much better could this damn lens be than the VR2? Okay, we know it's sharper. It's not sharper. It is. This is absolutely the most batshit crazy sharp lens. I know I've ragged on endlessly about people that talk about resolution. Just because there are a lot of other extremely important lens attributes other than resolution, I'm certainly not one to forego the fact that, if a lens has amazing resolution, it needs to be talked about. The resolution on this lens is absolutely bat crap crazy. Really, really, really good. The bokeh on this lens, too, for portraiture, which this is a hard staple of wedding photography, is amazing. It is very creamy, fluffy, dreamy, much better than the VR2. Much better than the Tamron 70-200 VC 2.8. Better still than the 80-200 Nikkor. Also, the fact that you can focus in really damn close with this lens, and the focus breathing is basically nil. Did I mention how close you can focus with this thing? The VR is absolutely mind-boggling. This lens, like, well, this is a full-frame lens. Why the hell are you using it on a Nikon D500? Several reasons. 1, pixel pitch. Number 2, the autofocus tracking of this lens, paired with the autofocus tracking capability and the insane buffer in autofocus tracking of the D500. These two combined are excellent. And there's nothing wrong with this lens in crop mode, which would be an equivalent field of view of 105 to 300 millimeters. That's perfect range. Nothing wrong with this on a crop sensor camera. This lens is absolutely fucking amazing. I'm glad I was the first person to do the review on it, because if I was like the second or the third, then everybody would be accusing me of copying everybody else's reviews, because all these reviews have started coming in. Some people I really don't care about, some people it's like, oh, okay. But they've all basically said the same thing. They basically said, oh my god! Which is exactly what this lens deserves. And you're thinking, oh, $2,800. How much better could it really be? I'm calling this the VR3. That's what Nikon should call it too. Instead of going to call it 2.8 E series. Yeah, you just call it the VR3, okay? That makes things simple. The newest 7200. So this is my absolute single most favorite pick of the year as far as lenses, even though it's one of 4 lenses I picked for lens of the year this year. And I had to add 4. I mean, why only have 1? I mean, there were 4 lenses of the year, but this is the topmost of them. Does it edge out the 200 to 500 Nikkor? That lens is amazing. I use it a lot during vacation. Very relaxing, fun to use. A detraction of it was not the fact that it is obnoxiously huge and heavy. That was not a detractor point. I love big, heavy cameras and lenses. I don't even have any muscles, but I don't know how some of these people bitch that have muscles. It's like, I'm fat, lazy, and have no muscles, and I got no problem hauling that heavy crap around all day long. But this lens is it. It really is. It's absolutely unfreaking believable. This lens gives you an extra 7%. Let's just talk about this camera and this lens together alone. This lens and this camera together alone give you high ISO capability, the ability to shoot amazing VR, amazing high ISO, amazing autofocus acquisition in just shitty lighting conditions, clubs, late night outdoors, that will just step on and piss on the skull of any other lens or camera combo. Not my opinion, a hardcore fact. This lens and this camera combo, or even the D5, however, I'm not a big fan of the D5, however, this has got more pixel pitch since it's 20 megapixels on a DX sensor versus 20 megapixels on a full-frame sensor on the D5. However, that also has an optical low-pass filter, which makes the images more fuzzy. This does not have an optical low-pass filter. This camera and this lens, empirically, substantially, and objectively so, it will just, stomp on the skull of every other lens and camera combo in this sort of range for really crappy lighting conditions and VR, pixel pitch, high ISO performance for no noise reduction in Photoshop or Lightroom need be applied. Not that it would need. 40,000 ISO on this, by the way, looks marvelously good enough for 8x10 prints without any additional noise reduction software to be added. Not that it couldn't benefit from that. I mean, I can't even see what I'm shooting at 40,000 ISO with this camera. You usually don't shoot stuff that you can't even see, but that's how good the performance is, so that tells you a lot. That extra 7% on this lens will give you an edge over if you're shooting the same scene, crappy scene, club, night scene, downtown where it's really dark, say there's no street lights. This will give you the edge over everybody else, no matter what the hell they have. This will give you a 7% edge plus over everybody else, period, flat out, balls out, no argument. Also, too, right now, just the lens alone, the 70-200. This lens, Sony owns it. They are king of the heap, and everybody has to lick Nikon's heels on this lens. Everybody has to lick, not my opinion, the MTF charts from Lens Rentals and others prove it. Everybody has to lick Nikon's fanny when it comes to this lens. There is nothing better than this. This is it. And not by like a little bit. It's a little improvement. It's like, how much more of this lens is a little improvement from the last. This lens is not a little improvement from the last damn lens. It's not. It is that much more so. That is no exaggeration. Oh, you exaggerate. No. This lens will be a legend. Every time I've made a video, and I don't say this shit lightly, every fucking time I said this camera will be a legend, everybody laughed at me. I was proven 100% right on the D500. I said this camera will be a legend. Totally proven right. I'm telling you right now that this lens will be a legend, and I will be proven right. It's only just come out. Some of the reviews are starting to trickle out. I'm so glad that I was the first person to review it. At least on YouTube. Someone might have written an article somewhere, but I never saw one. I'm the first person to post a Flickr group for this lens, but it will be a legend. Getting to the very last point, there's no issue on the zoom ring being moved to the front on this for 2 reasons. The tripod foot is a lot closer to the lens than the VR2, so when I'm actually holding the lens, my hand is not down here, it's up here. Second reason is for 3 reasons actually. We actually have autofocus buttons, so I have, instead of back button autofocus set to the back of the camera, I have it set for autofocus here. Shutter release is obviously where it needs to be. So I have either one of these 4 buttons set right here, so I have my hand right here. I'm using this as the autofocus button, and the third reason is that the zoom ring, and any other 70 to 200, you got to use 2 fingers to zoom. This lens is so silky smooth, bearing-wise, on the zoom ring, only requires one finger to zoom with it. So I'm using my thumb or whatever finger, right hand, left hand, you want to use to focus on one of the 4 buttons on the lens. I'm zooming with one of my fingers. This is not an issue. This short tripod collar is shorter to the lens, combined with the autofocus buttons, 4 of them right here, combined with the fact that I don't need 2 fingers to zoom, make this not 100% an issue at all as far as them moving the zoom ring from the rear to the front, or flipping them, however you want to look at them, doesn't make any difference. So, kudos to Nikon. This will be their legendary lens, and this is my pick of favorite lens of the year. And I gave that a long, hard think before making this video. I do. I really do. So, thank you for watching. I know the lens is expensive. This is the most expensive lens that I've ever recommended in 3,000 videos. If you can afford it, and if you could justify it for your work purposes, which would be a tax write-off anyway. If you can't justify it at all, or you're just a hobbyist, I understand. It's like, oh damn, that guy's recommending a lens that costs as much as my used pickup truck. I understand that. Okay, I'm not stupid to that fact. But this is the one and only lens of that sort of caliber, cost-wise, that is just, wow, holy shit. Nikon pulled it off. Really good. So that's it. This is King of the Heap, and everybody else is dust in the mud relative to this lens and this focal range. Thank you for watching. Bye.